This, hey Rick, this thing's not working. I know it's not working. Testing. Testing. Everybody hear me? That's better. Hold it. I hear it. It's working. Good to go. Good morning. On behalf of the Firefighters Association and the Fire Chiefs, it's good to welcome you for the last morning of our Improvement Conference. This morning, how many of y'all were able to attend the Chiefs Conference last June and see part of the Fire Chief 101? How many hands? Good. We have a lot of new people here. Fire Chief 101 was something that about a year and a half ago we recognized as something that we needed in our state. We have a lot of new chiefs, a lot of volunteer departments that one day you're a firefighter, the next day you're a fire chief. And so even in the paid departments like mine, when I became a fire chief, there was a lot of things that I didn't, no one told me. And so what we're trying to do is develop a program that when you become a fire chief, or even before then, it'll help prepare you to become a fire chief. And it's a lot of information, and it's kind of it's not everything you need to know, but kind of gives you the background of some of the things that are important and the responsibilities that you have as a fire chief. And today we have some of the developers of this program. We have with us Jack Abrams, who is instrumental in the PowerPoint presentation and putting a lot of the Fire Chief 101 or the Fire Chief Handbook into the Fire Chief 101 program. And we also have Bradley Anderson. Bradley's working with Chief Abrams and trying to make it more interactive. And then we have Rick Dunn with the Fire Academy, who is kind of spearheading this whole project. Without the Firefighters Association, the grant they received, they're using the grant to help fund some of the resources. So you'll see some avatars, unfortunately you'll see some other fire chiefs in there, including myself, and so I don't look good on camera, y'all can see that, but unfortunately that's kind of how we're the format is. It's very interactive. We have a lot of different associations that have been interviewed, and hopefully some of y'all will be given the opportunity. So it's a work in progress, and hopefully it'll be something that we'll continue to modify and improve over the years. With the Firefighters, or the Fire Chiefs Association, Chief Ryan has assisted us, Chief Kay, Chief Blackwell. We've had a lot of input, and input's important. Last year at our conference we had 4 pages. There was 80 people in the room, and there was 4 pages of information, things that we didn't even think about. So when you see this is just a glimpse of it, but we need your feedback. So hopefully y'all can help improve this and make it something that we're all proud of, and it'll help all the fire chiefs in our state. So with that being said, Rick, it's all yours. Thank you.
I spent the weekend up there, and so they're gonna deal with that right now. I've just been asked to kind of just give an overview of where we're going, and I think at the same time there's a lot of folks in this room that think Fire Chief 101 is the end, and Fire Chief 101 is actually the beginning. I had a conversation with a staff member the other day, and he made a comment. He said, "Boy, I'll be glad when we're done with our transition." And I looked at him and I said, "We're never going to be done with our transition in the fire service. We never have been." Those who don't know me, my name's Rick Dunn. I've been in the fire service for 30 years. I started as a volunteer in Lugoff. I went to Columbia, and after 23 years, I retired in 2009 as assistant chief there. I came back and started working a little bit here with Russ, and this was sort of an idea turned into something much bigger than that. And ideas get that way, and then for me personally, 2 weeks ago, I got another new job here, so they keep giving me new jobs, but they never give me any help. I don't understand that. So because I never get any help, I'm reaching out to you for help, and as we do that, I got invited to this steering group to start looking at Fire Chief 101, and last year a bunch of us traveled up to North Carolina and we watched a day and a half of a fire chief talk about things that are important to the North Carolina Fire Chiefs people. And I don't know where it started before that, but that was really my first introduction to this. And as I looked at it, it made a lot of sense. I had looked at the Fire Chief 101 handbook that's been posted out there on the association site for a while. And it really spawned that interest of the fact of when I became a chief officer, I had no clue what I was supposed to be doing. None. And I don't know about anybody in here. I go ahead and show the hands. Who was prepared for being a chief officer if you are one? Anybody prepared for that? Crickets. It's like none of us are. But the problem is the resources aren't readily available. There's some stuff out there like EFO. There's some other areas out there. It's always, there's that education side. Well, go get your degree. What do I get my degree in? Well, the degree doesn't prepare you before that firefighter who's going through a divorce. It doesn't prepare you for a fire truck being in an accident. It doesn't prepare you for a line of duty death or a firefighter funeral. That degree doesn't prepare you for information about workers' comp and insurance stuff. It doesn't prepare you for recruitment, retention. It doesn't prepare you for any of those things. And then the other side of it is trying to figure your way through all the laws that we have in our state just governs what we do in our business, whether it be HR laws, whether it be our response laws, what is our training issues, what are those kind of things all come into play. And so all of those things came into this, and I've sat quietly with this group for a while they really talked about these areas. And from the Fire Chief 101 handbook that the association built through their pieces, and it's being upgraded constantly as we go through. And that was one of the concerns. If we're going to build a program around it, it's upgraded, what do? Well, we're building the program around it where the program is not specific to the fact of the president or vice president is, but what the president or vice president does. And that's where it can be an ever-encompassing document. At the same time as we can make those changes as we go, if we need to. But as we post things, as we do these, that information can be uploaded and can be held current with that. So we talked about a little bit this morning with Chief Abrams and Chief Anderson, and it's really what we were going to do today. And if you came to get the Fire Chief 101 program, we're not ready yet, but it's coming. It's coming. And we're a lot further along than we've ever been, because from the stakeholders meeting we did at the beach, and as whatever your name is, Alvin, as Alvin said, was the fact that we had 4 pages. Poor John's hand was still sore from that. He was just writing stuff down, and we were trying to decipher what John was actually saying. We didn't know what that was. So we were translating that shorthand stuff that he had. Some of it was just doodles, That was when I was talking, I guess. And we took all of that. That was your feedback. And that feedback that you poured into this document, if you were in that room, we had a lot of lively feedback of what this should be. And understand that, as we talked about a little bit this morning, I made a comment. I said, Fire Chief 101 is a drop into the ocean. It's not the end all. Because I want to paint a picture before we do that. Then we're going to go through where it came from, and Chief Abrams and Chief Anderson are going to kind of go through a little bit of it. Then I'm going to come back and kind of share that future piece with that. Is from the steering committee itself, we've kind of outlined a certification education process through Fire Chief. And the one thing, and I will say, is I've been part of the Fire Academy for a very long time. And this is we probably have more now for the chief officer that's going to be coming out in the next 6 months than I've ever seen in my entire career here. Because this is an area that we haven't spent a lot of time on. And I don't know, it was because we felt like the fire chiefs just wanted to do their own thing, or our focus was so bogged down into we got to do basic firefighter, and we got to do pump operations, and we got to do whatever, different things with that. And so we're using as a guide the NFPA 1021, which is the professional qualification standard for fire officer, but we're also using some of the iChief's documents, like the iChief Fire Officer Development Handbook as part of that. And I'm currently sitting on NFPA 1021. I have been for the last 5 years. So as a principal with them. And so we look at the fact of what's the nation saying? What do we need to have? Well, I think if we got to back it up a little bit, is what is South Carolina saying and what do we need to have? Because they're not necessarily in the same, but there's a lot of it that can be pulled in together to paint a pathway for each and every one of us as we develop through our jobs. Some of you've been in your job for 40 years, 30 years, 20 years. I've been a chief for 25 years. I've already heard that. I know everything I need to know. Great. Then we need you to help us with those brand new people who just got elected chief. We got others that we got chiefs out there said, I've been in my job 40 years and I think I've been doing it wrong for 40 years. Help me. And I've had somebody say that to me, and I'm like, we're going to try and do that. Again, there is no single answer because each one of your systems, each one of your counties, each one of your governments are totally different out there. We understand that, but there's a lot of this that far reaches over that. And not to get to the individual elements of this, but an overall picture of where we want to go with this is to have that Fire Chief 101 program is more of an introduction to Fire Chief. So, you know, and I keep calling it a term is, so now you're a fire chief. You know, it's one of those, what do I do now kind of things. And with that with our group, we looked at a lot of different areas, our overview, our history, our laws. We looked at our laws and our policies and the way that thing works. And we went through recruitment and retention. We went through a lot of areas that were there, some other considerations. And Chief Anderson's kind of going to go through that list, and Chief Abrams is going to go through that list and really talk through that. And we kind of kept that list as we went through. But we wanted it available, and we wanted it available to everybody. And how we make it available to everybody is the fact that we have multiple delivery mechanisms for it. And so the path that we took with this is the fact of there will be an online version of this program where you as a fire chief can sit in your office and instead of look at ESPN News or whatever you're doing and, you know, what chief stuff that you all do in your office when you're busy, you know, working on budgets, you know, whatever that is, you can go through this program in 6 or 8 hours probably, or less. If you go to all the links and see what's all there, you can go through this program. It's a very interactive piece. We've got an example to show you, and as of this morning, we've got 5 of the 11 drafts. We've got 5 of the 11, and by the end of this month, we'll have the other ones for the steering committee to review and to be able to say, yes, that's it, and we'll put a final piece on it, we'll get it up. Will we get it up by the 1st of April? Will we get it up by the 1st of May? I can't tell you that, but I guarantee you there will be a lot of information that goes out, both from the Firefighters Association, the Chiefs Association, and Fire Academy said it's available. It's available, that's out there. And so it's going to be an online interactive component. Again, there's a lot of video, there's a lot of links. It takes you to all those important places like OSHA, through iChiefs, through wherever it is, through some of that linking as we go through that. And there's been a lot of tremendous amount of work that's been done with this. The other part of that is we really felt that was important is that there's discussion time. There's discussion time because we can start right now and I can throw a topic out there in the middle of this room, and if you weren't afraid of it, and some people, you know, that's one of the things, we haven't sniffed each other's butts yet. Please cut that out of the online stream. You know, we haven't done that yet, but once we get to know each other, we'll open up and we'll start talking. We'll start arguing. We'll start saying, no, this is the way it should be. We'll do that, whatever that we can. I mean, trust me, I'm good at that. So we can throw those topics out there. We can do that. Well, we want that. We feel that's important, and we feel that networking is important because there's a fire chief right now in South Carolina that has a similar situation than you do. They may be a career department, they may be in a combination department, they may be all volunteer, and they're dealing with the same issues you are, whether it be funding, whether it be recruitment, whether it be whatever. It may be in that inner city department that's having trouble with diversification because their council's on their neck about that, or it may be that rural volunteer where the rural volunteer department is all family and we quit having family, so where are we going to get the volunteers from? You know, it's a combination. We can go on and go on and go on with that argument, but we want to have those conversations, and we want to have it based on the hot topic of the day. So part of this program there'll be an online, and that'll also be available in a traditional version that an Alvin or a Chief K or John Ryan or any one of you will come into a fire department or to a community or to a Chiefs Association or wherever that is and deliver that. And deliver that program, and you'll have your PowerPoint, and you'll have your little counter pointer thing, you'll have your flip chart paper, and you'll go through the program, or you can do it online. There'll be identical parallel programs. Then that other part of the discussion piece is really the term I keep using is facilitated discussions. My job is to get you talking. Throw a topic out there. Let's talk ethics. Let's talk about politicians and ethics and how that affects you and your organization. Let's talk about social media. How is that affecting you? Let's talk about helmet cams. How's that affecting you? And we start having those facilitated discussion as we go through it, and it's whatever those hot topics are. And it could be where we're going to develop initially four facilitator guides for one of you or one of us or whoever to go into a community, a county, or a chief's association, or just to the firehouse, whatever that is. However we can deliver that, we're going to scour this. This is not a South Carolina Fire Academy instructor class. This is a chief class. You will only have a chief officer teaching you this program. Good? We okay with that? All right. Because of that, because we've been there, we've done that, and everybody in here who's a chief officer understands that. And it's not saying that younger person is not smart. I'm not saying that at all, but we have the battle scars to do it. I had Chief Anderson as my boss for too many years. No offense, sir. And I have lots of scars because of him. You know, because every day he changed his mind about something. I'm just joking, I'm joking. The reversal in this is he's working for me now. This is so much fun. It really is. We're going to have staff meetings at 7 a.m. He used to call them at 5 o'clock p.m. because he liked to sleep in. So it's just one of those things. But anyway, that facilitated discussion piece is really wrapped around that. It's really wrapped around that. And to be able to have those pieces that's there. And what we want to do at our collective group, both of the associations as well as the academy, is to give you credit for that. Because again, you're looking for ISO credit for officer training. Well, guess what? We got it. You're looking for credit for accreditation in some of you. Well, we got that, because these are things that all feed into that. And what we're going to do is, using the new South Carolina certification process, is we're going to look at certifying chief officers at a state level through at least that entry piece with this and define what those levels are. But we also have a lot of other things coming, and I'm going to go ahead and throw some of that out there, and then I'm going to speak more detail of that when we get done with this or answer questions at the end. But we did, sometimes you just got to ask. And toward the end of last year, we asked the National Fire Academy, what you got going on? Because that was, again, chief officer stuff, executive stuff, just really wasn't happening here in South Carolina. There really wasn't anything for us except for the old 20-year-old leadership things and some of that, where there really wasn't anything else besides that. And we made some phone calls and we asked some questions, and we actually got to talk to some folks, and then Dr. O'Neill got involved. Next thing you know is we did a train the trainer here, I can't remember when that was, I think it was fall, and we did 32 trainers for Politics in the White Helmet, which is a brand new National Fire Academy class, as well as what they call the new Fire Chief 1, the new Fire Chief 1. And we did a train the trainer, and we've got 32 people with that. You haven't seen it yet. You can do it. We haven't seen it yet because we haven't advertised it, because we want to do it together. We talked to the regions on Friday. They're going to start calling around and saying, hey, we're going to ready to do some of these classes. And so we're working toward that. But we did find out in the meantime, there was 2 new fire chief officer programs that were in development by NFA, 2 days apiece. That way we can reach our volunteer folks, our combination folks. And those 2 programs, the new Fire Chief 2 and 3, 2 has been released, and we had 4 people go up there and take that, and they have been deemed trainers for us. And also we have the 4th one, a leg in that thing is coming in March. And so we got some folks going up there to do that as well. And if we need to bring somebody in from outside the state because you don't want to hear from somebody like me, I'm cool with that, and we're going to do that. So those are really, that's, I'm trying to do my math here, that's 12 hours hang on, it'll come to me, 8 days of chief officer training that's going to be broken into a modularized format. But also we're bringing in VCOS, the FROG program that was done down in the Charleston area. Is another piece in that puzzle to go through there. We also have other components through the association, like the Leadership Institute, and we truly want to give credit for that through this process. And so, because we think that is truly a viable program, because I'll go ahead and tell you the ultimate goal of this is for national certification for Fire Chief 3 and 4, and this is going to play into it in South Carolina. So there's people sitting here saying, I don't care anything about IFSAC Officer 3 or 4, and actually hopefully Pro Board by this time next year if I don't fall off the plane going down there next week to talk to them. We're going to start that process as well. We'll have dual certifications with IFSAC and Pro Board. That's a national level based on NFPA 1021. Is the fact of this Fire Chief 101 program is going to feed into that, because we're going to do that in a challengeable process with demonstration of education, experience, and training. And this is just a part of that. And so as an overall plan, I'll go ahead and tell you there is never going to be an end. But what you're going to see today is the beginning, because we got a lot of work to do, and that's collectively. And if you're a pew sitter, we need your help. If you've been helping, we need more. If you want to help, if you want to be involved in this, come see me. And I'm going to say this because my filter turned off when I turned 50 years old. Some of you know exactly what I'm talking about. If all this is about you, don't come see me. You can take the class, we'll give you a certificate. But if you want to make the fire service better, if you want to contribute to this project, please, please, please come see me or one of these other gentlemen that's up here with this. And we'll find a place to plug you in. We'll find a place, and it may be where we just need your input on something. It may be where you're going to host a chief class. It may be where something else. And we had a crew that we were blessed with the fact of the first thing is when this project says we really need to take this to that, we need to take what Jack had built and put that interactive component in there. And Alvin stole my thunder because for the first time ever, and this has been my target. Y'all know, if y'all know me, I'm the online guy, okay? So that's how I started. It was an idea, and we really just started blossoming from there. As of today, we've had over 7,000 online users in the state of South Carolina that has had training through us, not just either educational training or certification based like through a fire officer or a fire instructor or whatever using an online element. We're at that point. We're starting now to reach out beyond South Carolina with that. So we have some other pieces. We're streaming this live as that next big thing for us, and we're going to go there in the next direction. But as I look at this, I say the fact of we want to be able to make it available. And as we know, the fact of if we came out with a Fire Chief 101 program and did it at the beach or a conference like this, we would have 40, 50 people maybe. But the thing about it is there's a whole lot of other people that are chief officers in South Carolina right now who are in church or in bed or doing something right now that's not here. How do we reach them? How do we reach them? We can reach a lot of different ways, and the Fire Academy's motto is figure out other ways besides just having me talk to you. So as we go through this, I'll come back in at the end and we'll do some question and answer stuff with that. But I just want to say how exciting it is to be part of this, and I know for me, I struggled. I struggled as a battalion chief. I struggled as an assistant chief. I struggled. We went through promotional processes. We went through interview stuff and everything else, and we laid all our stuff out and saying, here's why you need to pick me. I kept telling them, don't pick me, but they did anyway. But it's like, here's why you need to pick me. But then once I got there, I sat down in the chair and I said, what in the world did I do? Especially when the first call started coming and they kept coming after that. And so it's been a blessing to be put in this place, and I really want to give back. So with that, I guess I'm turning it over. Are you moderating, or just Jack's going to take it and go? All right. You want this or you want that? I'll take this. Okay. I'll turn this on.
Good morning. Thank you all for being here on a Sunday morning, a weekend. And first thing that I want to do is, having passed through a career in the fire service that started in 1973, and I retired a couple years ago and passed through to the promised land of retirement, is to express my sincere appreciation to all of you and to those chiefs who are not here and to those firefighters, those youngsters that are coming into the fire service, into the service that you provide for our community, and specifically those in leadership roles, the sacrifices that you make to do what you do. And you won't appreciate the sacrifices that you make until you pass through to the promised land of retirement, and you can exhale and you can start to reflect of what you have accomplished, those lives that you have impacted through your leadership role, the dangers of the job that you are so well aware of and hopefully never have to experience the worst of. And I just want to say thank you. About 2 years ago, I was asked to help develop the curriculum for the Fire Chief 101, and you'll get more detail on that shortly. And my challenge was not knowing where to start, but knowing where to stop, because as we've already alluded to, you know firsthand, the quantity and quality of information that you need to have all the answers is almost unlimited. So with the help of the advisory committee and lots of input that Rick's already alluded to, we became very, very focused, and the mission was to develop a South Carolina specific curriculum on Fire Chief 101, and my charge was to start that process through the research of federal laws, state laws, to some effect local laws, to search all available information that I could find that was South Carolina specific to the fire service, and to start to put that together. So some examples, as the purchasing officer for your department, you become authorized, funded to buy a fire truck, and if you've had that experience, you know how the flies start to gather, the fire truck vendors start to gather when that news gets out, and one of the vendors offers to take you on a deep sea fishing trip. Under state ethics law, can you accept that kind of gift? Unfortunately, you have to terminate a member of your department, disciplinary action. And the next day, you get a Freedom of Information Act from the local newspaper and the television station wanting access to that employee's personnel file. Are they entitled to it? OSHA comes knocking, and one of the first questions they ask is they want to see your hazard communication plan for your firefighters. Do you have the MSDS for the bottle of bleach that's underneath the kitchen sink? That's in your workplace. One of your male firefighters drops a comment in the day room that the female firefighters' breasts sure look bigger than they used to be. And the next thing you know, she's filed a sexual harassment complaint. What do? So these are the kind of scenario information that we've tried to pull together in this curriculum. In closing, I'll say this, and you already know it, but one of the perspectives that I developed working through this project was that being the chief officer, and as you trickle up the chain of command, this becomes more apparent to you, that there are several paradigm shifts that take place in this process. One of those paradigm shifts, that when you become chief, that you are no longer working for a fire service supervisor. You're working for somebody, an administrator, a commission, a council, that is outside of the fire service, and all of a sudden you're accountable to somebody who doesn't know, doesn't understand, doesn't have that firsthand working knowledge of firefighting and dealing with firefighters and all the issues that you have to deal with, and you've got that challenge of being supervised for the first time in your career, probably, of being a boss, being supervised by somebody who's not from the fire service, and that's a learning experience. Secondly, in your community, where you may have dozens of bankers, dozens of attorneys, lots of important people in your community, there's only one fire chief, and you're it. And you are expected to be the subject matter expert on all aspects of everything associated with fire in your community, to have all the answers or if not all the answers, knowing where to go to get those answers. And hopefully this program will help you with that. And lastly, you are the face of your fire department in your community. Everywhere you go, whether you're in the company car or you're in the grocery stores and your cutoffs and flip-flops, you are the face of your fire department. You are the face of the fire service of South Carolina in your community, as all the members of your department are, but you're the chief. And your level of knowledge, your professionalism. And I define professional as one who continually seeks to self-improve. Think of your doctors, the physicians, other professions that are in the evolving body of knowledge, always have to be learning to stay up to date. And as professionals, we do that. This program is intended to help you with that. And lastly, we all owe a great sense of gratitude to those fire service leaders who are still active, a lot of them are here today, that thought this up and said, let's do it in South Carolina. This is what I would call a legacy program. It is going to help current chiefs, yes, but really the future leadership of our fire service is going to benefit from this. And that legacy started with the ideas of some of the very fine, I'll use the word great, fire service leaders that you have available to you today. I wish you all the best. Stay safe. And Chief Anderson, thank you all.
Yeah, I'll just take this while you do that.
Turn on.
Rick looks so comfortable over, let's see. Yes. Yeah, is that working? Okay. Rick looks so comfortable over here sitting on the stage, I think I'll try to do something similar, but in a minute I'll be behind the computer. Like Jack, Chief Abram. Got it? Thank you. Like Chief Abram, I just appreciate the support that I've had from this group over the years, and it's very, very nice to stay connected. I appreciate that very much. Good to see a lot of familiar and friendly faces. Of course, payback's hell. Now I'm working for Rick, and he doesn't let me forget it.
He was here at 7:30 this morning.
Which is unusual. It's true. Everything he said was true. We've talked a lot about this now, and you've gotten a really great background from the three previous speakers, letting you know how we got to this point. And at this point, what I'd like to do is to demonstrate a little bit of one of the modules. There are 11 lessons that we're working on putting together. The Fire Academy has contracted with a company called Microburst Learning, and that logo is actually going to change in the future, but that's the company. They specialize in video training and interactive training, and I think you'll be impressed. I certainly was when I first saw this and how they do this. They mix a lot of things together, a lot of, you might call this a multimedia kind of thing, where they have video, they have some regular pictures, they have text, they have avatars in here interacting with folk. You'll see some familiar faces being interviewed in video, and all throughout this thing are scattered places where you, going through this, are going to have to interact with it. You can't proceed until you've answered a question, and these questions aren't hard, but they just get you to think, and they make sure that you stay engaged with it. And of course, this is designed for one-on-one interaction through the internet. I want to emphasize that this is in draft form right now. This just got completed up to this point yesterday. I mean, this is how hot this is. Well, Friday, I guess. And we're going to be reviewing these and moving through them. But the company's making great progress. I'm enjoying working with them. My role is to be sort of the subject matter expert in the details as the company goes through it. And then, of course, we have the steering committee that's looking at the big picture of the thing and making sure that the project is moving in the right direction and supporting it as we go. I'm going to just list the 11 groups of lessons that will be involved. There's an intro, there's a lesson on fire department organization, one on roles and responsibilities, another on associations that are available to you in South Carolina, another on human resources, recruitment and retention. The one we'll see this morning a little bit of is South Carolina laws, another on handling conflicts, one on fire department safety, one on LODD, and then a sort of a future-based one where you go from here as a fire chief.
I think it'd be benefit that to add, Chief, it is all encompassing of both career and volunteer in combination. It's all intermixed throughout the whole way through.
Very good point, and we are trying to make sure we don't let anybody fall through the cracks with this. So we will have volunteer. We try to put a lot of emphasis on volunteer and career departments. There's of course a lot of things that are the same, and then there's a lot of differences. And we're trying to cover the scope of those things so that we don't lose anybody. And we've got a good combination on the steering committee of folks like that. My background is not just career. I started as a volunteer, so I have some idea about that as well. And we're trying to make sure that all of that is covered. What I'll do is walk through, let's see, now that I'm up at this mic. We'll just walk through some of this and you'll get an idea about what we've got. I want to leave enough time for Chief Dunn to come back up, but we can probably spend 15 minutes or so going through this. So this is the laws lesson, and you'd be accessing this on the internet through the State Fire Academy course, through the online training.
South Carolina law provides specific authority to fire chiefs and fire departments. Although some functions, duties, and responsibilities may vary by municipality or county. As fire chief, it is your responsibility to review any local statutes that relate to your duties or the responsibilities and functions of the fire department. It is especially important that you know and understand your local fire-related ordinances. Watch these videos to see what could happen if you don't stay up to date. Click the buttons on the keyboard to watch each video.
Now, there are, just to give you an insight on some of the changes, that avatar that you just saw, we're going to pin a badge on him to make him look a little bit more like a fire chief.
We're going to work on a lot of that. I think we're going to try and get him where he looks just like Alvin.
That'll be a hair color change, too.
Are you okay up there?
Yeah, that's much better. Thank you. Oh, wait a minute. I missed a spot there. Let's not forget. Now, you can click through some of this, and other parts you're forced to stay with.
As an administrator, and when you become a fire chief, that's what you become. You become less of an operations chief, and you become an administrator. But as an administrator, you have to go to professional seminars. You have to go to development seminars. You have to go to the seminars that talk about all these FLSA laws and FMLA laws. And you may have known the one 2 years ago, but things change over 2 years. Regulations change through congressional acts. Regulations change through case law, where someone has gone to court and the courts have found a case in a particular manner. That changes how we have to administer and manage our folks. So you have to continue to look for educational opportunities to stay above these situations, because they can cost you and your district a lot of money and a lot of headache, a lot of turmoil, and a lot of stress in your personal life if you don't.
Chief Marion Blackwell, Spartanburg. Thank you.
We all get into questions that we don't know the answer for.
I've always been taught, when in doubt, ask. Use whatever resources that you have. Don't just fumble with it and hope you got it right.
No question is a stupid question. Don't ever hold back. Do not hesitate to call me. We're here to help you. We're partners in managing liability for the city. I am responsible to you to provide you the support that you need. Do not feel that you can't ask a question. We want you to. I would rather you call and let us walk through what the issue is so that we can take appropriate action. I'd rather handle things up front with you. That way, we can both rest assured that we're taking the right and appropriate action consistent with policies and procedures, and most importantly, consistent with legal requirements. We're all in it together, and so it's better that we start that relationship up front when we can take preventive action.
One of the things I think we obviously need is some identification of who we're hearing interviews from. I think these are mostly HR folks that we heard here. I don't even know.
She's the city administrator at one of the cities that was interviewed.
Okay, excellent. And I think we probably have to put a label on there so we know who we're looking at. So then we can choose a file if we care to. And we can dig into, here's a question that requires you to interact, and it says which statutes are more important. And by the way, one of the things that is also going to be added are more narration of the text that you see on the screen. But I happen to know that we consider all to be equally important, so select that and you get positive feedback on that particular answer. If we go back, we can look at another file in the drawer. And here's a list of what's in the Code of Laws under Title 23, which is important to us. More information. And we've got live links to websites that are important to this topic, so that if you want to go to the State House and see Title 23 and what's in there, you can go straight to the laws. Before we can proceed, and if you click on this, it did let us by. Some of them will let us by, some of them won't. But anyway, true or false, fire chief must be certified as a resident state fire marshal, and the answer is false.
And just for just to let everybody know the process, and again, this is what we do. This version will go to the review committee and the reviewers, and if everything is correct, then they'll do the audio, because the audio, once you have it, it's not like just taking a computer and changing a word. The audio will be added because that's a bigger production part with that, and most of these slides there'll be audio backups behind it, asking questions, having discussions, or whatever else. So a lot of this, there's more that's going to be happening with this, but that's the final step, would be the audio is added to it. And this is a hot off the press draft that was done, I think it was about midnight Friday night when Rebecca dropped it to us to say, here, show these.
Mm-hmm. So if we go mouse over here, we get a little extra information. And again, this will be narrated as well as available just to read. One of the things that this does is to recognize that people learn different ways. And some people learn well by reading things, other people learn well by hearing things, and of course there's even some interactivity built in here to try to keep everyone engaged, so that we try to cover as much of that spectrum of learning abilities as we can. There are little icons in here that are fire service related, where we can climb a ladder and learn about things that are important in fire code. Adequacy of exits. We may have to change some of these pictures. I think some of these pictures are a little redundant, but you get the idea.
You presented with a problem as the fire chief, you can't ignore it. You've got to deal with it. He's got to be the one to make an ultimate decision or some kind of movement on that, or an OSHA violation or anything like that.
And that's in any kind of department, whether you're paid, volunteer, doesn't matter. You're going to be confronted with that problem.
Absolutely. Just having resources there to know how to handle something like that.
Some of those, state mandated requirements, and those are functions that you can't do without. I think there's information in this program that'll be important to everybody from the captain level above, based on what your job description is. Even in volunteer departments that have a chief, there's other people that want to be the chief. There's other people that are going to have those responsibilities, whether it be command, whether it be as a safety officer, whether it be as a compliance person. But it's very difficult for one volunteer fire chief to run an organization. And the great part of the program is that if you forget something, it's right there at your fingertips to go back and
Look at it.
refresh yourself.
So here we have a little interactive activity here, and the question is help the firefighter get to the top and extinguish the flames by clicking on the best words that describe the duties below. And if you get it wrong, the building burns more. So let's just say that watching television is important. Well, by golly, that must not be the right answer. So we'll get him to start climbing the ladder here. Holding accountable seems like a smart thing to say. Make adjustments, sure, we always have to do that. Delegation is what chiefs do a whole lot of. Go surfing, yeah, let's do that. Oh, that must be the wrong answer then. Buying groceries, doggone it. Playing sports, man, this building's going to burn down. Being knowledgeable, having a plan, we get to the top finally. But it just gives you an idea. These things may be a little silly, but they keep you engaged and keep you moving through the material. Here we want to know what is the code adopted by South Carolina that must also be adopted by local jurisdictions, and you may know that that's the International Fire Code. And there we go. If we'd selected something else, it would have corrected us. True or false, electronic documents are legal documents. That is indeed true. And so we say that and we get feedback on that. We can't progress beyond that screen until we've answered that question. Then we move into this, okay, inspection forms. And a little bit about code enforcement, things the chief ought to know about code enforcement and how to supervise it. Firefighter registration, we're moving through a whole broad spectrum of things rather quickly, as you can see. But as you know, as chiefs, there's a lot of stuff out there. Background checks. And here, you won't let us go until we've answered this question. So, this would be a correct answer here. No, it's not. Here
we go.
Firefighter registration. Did I read this thing wrong? Okay. I'm going to plead ignorance and keep moving. Background checks. Filling this thing out. A little bit about E-Verify. Here's where...
I'm going to stop you just for a second.
Go ahead.
Even on the background check pieces, there's going to be links to that out to the firefighter portals because the fire marshal's office can do those background checks. I had a meeting at Jumper Station Volunteer Fire Department it was Monday that night, and just was sitting and talking to them. They didn't know about it. They were paying money to SLED to do their background checks for them. All, as you guys know, is they just submit them through the fire marshal's office, and that fee's paid for because they're registering as a firefighter. So there's going to be links to those pieces within the program to kind of identify and understand what that is. And so, that's how this is really going to be an impact, because there are a lot of chiefs and there are a lot of departments out there that don't know not only that it's required to do a background check, it's required to register firefighters through that background check, but also that the avenues of being able to do that without it costing the department extra money or whatever else with that. So those are areas that we're including into the program, and be links to those kind of pieces as we go through. Some of that may be when we put these modules up on the online page, will be links to there where you can go back and get to those, or at least point you to the website or wherever that is and identify where that is on the website of where to find those links. So just again, not to date it, the fear you have with online training development is the fact of if something changes, then you have to go back and change that part of it, but we can provide that information in another area within the program, not necessarily, this is not the program, this is the interactive elements or what we call courseware. The program would be on its own site page that has a lot of other additional information, like links to the Fire Chief 101 handbook on the association site. When that happens is when that document's updated, you're automatically getting the newest and greatest that's there. I'll hush now.
Thank you very much. Another little exercise here is that if you're overseeing the inspection program, you may not be doing the inspections. In some small departments, you may be doing the inspections, but if you've got a fire marshal doing them or fire prevention bureau, occasionally it's a good idea to look at the records and just see how things are going. And so this is just a quick little exercise in detail and really looking closely at what the records are saying. There's a couple of records here that are overdue, with overdue inspections. And so if you click on the right one, you get a check. If you click on the wrong one, it says no, and it gives you the right answer here and points out that there are a couple here that are seriously overdue. These are the sorts of things that we believe is important for a fire chief to keep an eye on. Here's one change. They're talking about privately owned vehicles, but obviously we're in a fire truck, so we probably will change this picture. I'm going to encourage them to put a little different picture up, but the POV responses is such a critical part of particularly of the volunteer side of things.
First, when you look at this program and see how much liability does fall on the fire chief, it's scary. But I don't want it to come across as something like being scared, but actually how to handle it and using these resources to handle that day-to-day operation. Like you said, tactics, that's the easy part. We've done that for years.
And this program will help you prepare yourself and make sure that you have covered those liability issues, that you've addressed them internally.
And it goes back to that firm-based knowledge that you talked about earlier. Is the information I get in Spartanburg is going to be the information that you get in Louisville County, the information you get in Myrtle Beach, and it's all the same across the board. Where before we would call our next fire chief over and say, "What do you think about this?" And we got his opinion. This is not going to be based on opinion. This will be based on fact and laws and best practices.
And this is self-explanatory, of course, about requirements for qualifications to drive trucks and explaining how that's set up and who can authorize this. This would be our correct answers here.
Well, we've got 4 people assigned to this truck. Usually one of them is off, so 3 people, that's the minimum staffing we can have on any truck. You have to have a commercial driver's license, and then we send all of our drivers through driver's school and pump operator school. That's usually a couple-week process.
And we can click on different places here to get additional information. And I'll skip the others. We'll just keep moving here so you get an idea. Talking about Mobilization Act, how that works. And again, this will be narrated as well as up here as text.
If you want to see the scripts, I've got a whole book of them. You can review those at your,
If you wait a couple of months, you'll get to get all the gory details and just take the class. But you can move the magnifying glass around here in this case and see what's involved with Firefighter Mobilization Act. Good. There we go. Etc.
From a liability standpoint, you being the top dog and the one that they're going to turn to should something go wrong, the expectations of the public, you're the fire chief. Whether it's a small community in a rural environment or a municipal department in an urban environment, it's irrelevant. The expectation is the same, the liability is the same.
If you're following along, you see on the left-hand side the subjects. Now, this is going to be condensed when we get the final draft. You'll see Emergency Powers Act one time rather than all these times. This is for the developers as they work on it so they can get to the different slides. But you can track your progress here, and of course you can go back to any part of it that you want to look at again. If you want to see E-Verify again, you can click back on it and go back to it. Or you can pick back up where we were.
From a liability standpoint.
And here's a cute interactive exercise where we find out about the 1% fund. And here you have to look at the picture, you find the fire extinguisher, and then you click on the fire extinguisher, and it gives you one rule about the one requirement of 1%. You click on the flame, and another rule about 1%, etc. You find the axe, find the hose, find the hydrant, and then top it off with a ring. Got a diamond ring over here. There we go. And more about 1%.
1%, it's a tax on assessed property values. A portion of that fire insurance premium goes to a qualified fire department based on their fire district coverage in that county. There's two ways to qualify for 1% money. One being the Firefighters Association. The second part of that would be to the fire marshal side. You have to satisfy each agency to be eligible to receive 1% money. There's three areas of opportunities for you to spend your 1% money in. One is retirement and insurance. Training and education would be the second, and the third is recruitment and retention. Anything that 1% money or is used to purchase, it belongs to the fire department. So it says, like retirement, we offer a plan through the association. We do offer where you can go out and have your own retirement plan. Also, there's a lot of supplemental package in the insurance side that we provide through the association. You can actually take that retirement fund with you once you qualify, once you're 100% vested. So that's why we say that this is a very important section to spend your money in.
I'm going to wrap this down in a minute. How much time do you think you're going to need for the...
I'm hoping that they're not going to beat me up too bad, so we're okay.
Well, we're certainly going to be open for feedback on this too, if you've got questions or comments about it. Are there any questions or comments right now about what you're looking at? Is this something do you like what you see? I'm excited about it because it's such a new and different way of presenting some of this training that we just haven't had before. If you see things that you want to provide feedback on, please get in touch with me or Rick or anybody, and we'll be glad to work on it. This does cover a lot of material, and as Chief Abram was talking earlier, he did a lot of research to pull this together, so we've got a lot of good material, and a lot of it's added by these videos that are going on with this. So I think at this point you've got a feel for what this is about, and I'm going to turn this back over to Chief Dunn.
We'll turn lights back on. So what do you think? Seriously, what do you think? You good? Somebody gonna give me this or whatever? Now, and I'll go ahead and tell you. I'll tell you is, and I'm gonna park up here. We're family. I tell you is, we've got, and personally, I get a little bit of pushback, a little bit of feedback about that. Well, this isn't for everybody. You're right. And I'm going to go and call him out because I'm going to call out Alvin. And the reason I'm going to do that is the first we started talking about saying the word online, he said, well, I'm not really that type. I'm not he started a lot of I'm notas. And it was almost like he felt it was important that somebody was standing up here with a PowerPoint slide behind him. Once he saw it, though, I think he's starting to come around. Because I will tell you, I truly feel that it's going to be important that we have a chief officer to be able to answer those questions. That we have somebody that's going to be there. So really this is going to be one part of it. Or there's a lot of folks out there who really are not comfortable. They're not going to be comfortable with this. Or it could be where they're trying to pull this information in using a 3G network in Lugoff, South Carolina, down in the hole by the creek where I live, and it just ain't going to happen. So because of that, we're going to have these programs that are going to be offered in a standard format where there is going to be the PowerPoint, but the PowerPoint's going to look like this. There's going to be those links where the video pieces are going to be there. It's not going to be, you're not going to be filtered through me or through somebody else. These same people, and the biggest thing is we looked at everybody that's responsible for something in this state that's going to help the fire chief, and they're on video. I'm sorry, Jeff, you're up there, buddy, wherever you are, but because Jeff's responsible for what? 1%. I mean, that's what his job is, and so you want to hear it from him. You don't want to hear it from me. You don't want to hear my opinion on it. You're going to hear it directly from him. And again, as we build these interactive modules itself, as they go through, is the narration has been written, has been vetted, and Chief Anderson's role really in this was we had a informational development company build this. We had a steering committee that was over here that speaks fire language. You know how many acronyms we have in fire service? That'd be a great research project, wouldn't it? Because and we're throwing new stuff out there. So as we look at what does that mean? And I will tell you, as Rebecca and their crew at Microburst, Ann and Rebecca, and they're a local company. They're based in Columbia. Rebecca is actually the creative genius behind all this. And Rebecca Basil, she actually lives in Charleston. She has a degree from Clemson in art design and computer animation. And then she spent a number of years in California working for Pixar on the movie Cars. This is big time stuff. And through through the Firefighter Association, the recruitment and retention grant piece, they were able to help us to hire this company, and so it would be a high quality piece to be able to go out there. And so that's really the components with that, is taking the work that Jack had done, that really he took the work that the association did within developing the Fire Chief 101 handbook, taking that, putting this group, this steering committee together that's a representation of the fire service from rural South Carolina to Myrtle Beach. You know, there's and a lot in between of that all the way through there's so many components in here that's going to be directed toward career firefighting. There's going to be things like HR rules, and there's going to be things like good practices and best practices as we go through this program. But there's also, for that rural volunteer firefighter, is going to be recruitment. There's going to be those components that's there, even to the point of fundraising is part of that as well. So each and every one of these slides, or the majority of these slides, do have that narration component behind there. As Chief Anderson said, it's multi-sensory. You're going to see it while you're hearing it, while you're reading it, and all the other parts. And then the activities really just bring home those learning activities throughout it. And it's taken the incredible amount of work that Jack did, and all we're doing to the next piece. What Chief Anderson has been doing with this is he's been the avatar spirit guide of Microburst, because he's been working with them of saying, well, that acronym means this, or this is what they mean by that, because we'll sit around a room, we'll start throwing things at them, and they get this glassed over look. You know, you've been there, you know what I'm talking about. And so it's really that connection with that. And so just wanted to kind of share, and again, I brought my overall list, and I know this has changed a little bit here and there, but as Chief Anderson said, there's 11 modules that'll be within this program, and we're going to house it at the Fire Academy online training site. And with that, at the end of it, there'll be a certificate that they'll be able to get. But they'll have to successfully complete it. As you can see, it will not be just click play and go cut the grass or go watch Oprah. It won't be. There's an interactive component in there. And that interactive component is the fact of you're going to have to engage in it. And I know when I couldn't even spell HTML 3 years ago, and learning the online training world as part of that, this company is very good at what they do, knowing kind of what their processes are. There's a lot of interactivity with that. Some of them are cutesy, but you know what? We're going to get in touch kind of with that side of us anyway. To me, you know, that's that piece that's fun. You know, as you're reading through, if all we did was had a bunch of talking heads, you would be bored silly with that. But there's other parts that are kind of put in there. But there is going to be that intro piece of what this is and what it's for. There's also going to be, again, fire department organizations. And those fire department organizations is that breakdown between, and one of the discussions that we had in our original stakeholders meeting at the beach last year was the point of, what about public safety? What about combination? What about volunteer? What about combination mostly volunteer? What about combination mostly career? What about career? I'm a career firefighter. I don't care anything at all about a volunteer. Why do I need to sit through that? Or at the same time is, what about the civil service exam? What about promotional stuff? Well, you know what? In the volunteer world, sometimes that is just a matter of who gets the most votes. You know, so how do we deal with that in an encompassing program? And I think we've done a really good job in really getting some work out of these guys as we go through that. The roles and responsibilities is a key component. What is the roles and responsibility of fire chief? You know, they are the senior fire official for that district, for that area. So you go through the associations, and we did a lot of work on who's there to help you and what that's about. The human resource side is there. And again, even if you're a volunteer fire chief, there's still a human resource side that you have to deal with, all the way through recruitment, retention has its own area, handling conflicts, the laws, and you saw part of that. Some of the safety pieces, the LODD, and then really what's that what's next piece. So what's next? Yes, sir.
The devil's advocate. That's really cool. I like that. But just take, for instance, there was a thing that flashed by. To drive an emergency vehicle, you must have an endorsement on your license. Is that true?
It's actually in the text where it talks about the ways of doing some of that. And I'm not going to sit here and say, I don't know what's true and what's not true, but as we're working through that is, what does the law say?
Well, that's what I'm trying to get to is if I took that in a chief, there may be some questions that come out of that. Who could I go to? Could that point me in the direction, say, for the sake of argument, do I go to Joe Palmer, who is the chairman, who is the executive director of the Firemen's Association, to get the answers that may come out of this? There's got to be somebody.
And that's the point, and that's and I want to clarify, Rick's, that was my whole issue with just having that. And one of the things that at the end of the modules we're going to designate mentors in every region of the state. Through the Firefighters Association and the Fire Chiefs Association, have fire chiefs that can answer those questions. Because I think that's part of the fallacy or the issues that I have with this, is that when there is a question, you have no one to ask the question to. And so by having that mentor opportunity, there'll be someone in your region that you can call that's been a chief for an amount of time that should be able to answer, or know someone that can get the answer for you. But I will tell you this, as a fire chief, you got two ways. You can have either a CDL or you got to have that endorsement. I mean, that's a state law. But my point is that's exactly the point that I think that Rick makes about just having this available. And that's why the discussion part is important.
Got my own microphone.
We try to include links to websites and stuff where you can go and get some of that more. Oh yeah,
I got my own microphone now, so y'all are in trouble. I'm not a clicker. I'm not a surfer. I want the answer. And one of the pieces, we actually had this discussion, I guess it was yesterday, was the fact that within this online site, there's going to be, to get in more information or somebody get in contact with you, there'll be email addresses, there'll be phone numbers, that there'll be ways to do that. Because you're right, there's some folks that are going to go through this thing and said, I got it, let me go search the law, let me do this, let me do this. They're going to bring back stuff to this steering group that's going to say, have you thought about this? And we're going to make those changes because we'll have those files to be able to do it. But on the other side of that, there's a lot of folks that's going to sit out there and say, well, who do I ask about that? And that's there's two pieces. One, there's going to be information that this is what the law states, and this is where to find it, but also who's those other regulatory people that you may need to follow up with. On the other side of that, who's that fire chief or who's that person at the association? And Joe's wiggling his hand back there or whatever. You don't have your own microphone, though. I do.
I got a big mouth. And I know you can't hear me online, but John, I think the companion part of that is that you watch and take this, but we developed with the Chiefs Association roundtable forums, kind of what we've been doing in here, with a panel discussion and allow those kind of questions and dialogue to come out. And there may be a challenge for you the time you take this, the time you're remembering what your question is, but I think there's a companion piece to it that you can't do away with face-to-face.
Of course, to open the can of worms is, why don't we have a minimum standard for fire chiefs? And minimum standard for a fire chief would be he had to complete this course to do that.
I'll make a statement, and I'm probably, again, I got a retirement check, so if they fire me, I'm sorry. Take it offline for a minute. Is you can't mandate something that doesn't exist. So once you have something, then you can mandate it. How you mandate it, there's your legislative agenda. There's your 1% piece, whatever that is. But you got to have it before you mandate it. You're fixing to have it. That's when you guys have to get busy.
When I ran for presidency of the fire chiefs, that was one of my goals, and this is the beginning of it, and it's going to continue. It's going to take time, and that's why it's important that we continue to get feedback from the chiefs and upper other officers. It could be a battalion chief. What do you need to prepare yourself to be a fire chief? And so, how many of y'all would have benefited from a mentor when you were a new fire chief? And I think that's the key component, I believe. Unfortunately, when we sit in a big room, some of us will not ask a question. But when we're one-on-one, it's a little bit easier to ask that question that might seem stupid in a room full of 100 people. And so I believe that the mentoring program will be effective because it will allow people to have that one-on-one communication. And hopefully they'll ask, there is no stupid question. And so they'll be less afraid to ask those questions.
Coming from a volunteer side, I know Chief Payne mentioned a while ago this is going to be sold to captains coming up. But we need to send it to the volunteer chief side, lieutenants, and maybe even firefighters. Because we're fortunate enough, myself and Chief Hannon, we're only 15 minutes away from here. We ride together a lot. We may not make it back home. We need to have more people that know how to run our jobs when we get back.
How many of you do have that succession planning? How many of you actually have that, where that next in line knows what you do? One or two hands are up there. Typically, the next in line is doing your job, so we won't go there. So, we'll leave that one alone. We'll leave that one alone. That is true, though. I mean, it really is.
Well, you're
mentoring them.
But he brings a good point up, and I said it earlier. The firefighter today might be the chief tomorrow in a volunteer organization. And not every organization in the volunteer arena has that ability to do that, to prepare someone, because unfortunately sometimes as people move around or someone else moves into the district or friendships develop or whatever it may be, it's a majority vote of the firefighters that determine who the chief is. And that fire chief, he might be your buddy today, but he has responsibility. And that's what this is about, is hopefully opening his eyes to what not only his responsibilities are, but his liability is. It could affect your family. There's things that your responsibility is not just about your job. It affects your personal life. And I think Rick said it earlier. There's more to being a fire chief than when you go home, it doesn't change. Your responsibility doesn't go away. And if something happens, you carry it with you the rest of your life. And those things, are things that we have to prepare our people for. I know it's difficult, and sometimes you can't truly prepare them, but we need to make sure that those people understand what those responsibilities are and hopefully try to prepare them.
And I think one of the challenges that we're going to have is we have chief officers in this state who don't want their folks to know this information. They want to hold that power and they want to hold that control. And that's not a negative, it's just how they are. That's just their personalities. But some of you want everybody in your department to have this information. Again, it's going to be available. How you use it, though, is going to be up to you because, again, I think every fire chief should have this information and should have some type of a credentialing program with that. But how do we make that happen? That's up to you. That's up to you as you push forward. But I know as the Fire Academy, we're committed to being part of a partner with the Chiefs Association and the Firefighter Association to make this happen. This is not going to have some funky 4-digit number and you're going to sign up through the Fire Academy to take this class and the Fire Academy instructor show up with his box of slides. It's going to be a fact of it's a joint partnership between those three groups, and as we move forward, we're going to continue to foster that partnership and to bring other stuff in here and kind of doing that component with that. So, I'm excited about this. I don't know what our timeline is with anything, but I'm excited. John, you got another question?
I hate to beat a dead horse to death, but what the gentleman said about volunteers and coming back and thinking about minimum standards. We have a minimum standard to be a firefighter 1. We have a minimum standard to be a firefighter 2. But we can go to XYZ volunteer fire department and it's 51% of who's going to be the chief. And whether that person is qualified to be the chief, I think this program goes a long way to start doing that. But, you can push that rope. I pushed that rope for 20 years. And Norman Knight sat me down one time down at the beach and probably put me in the right direction of coming back to what Alvin says. This is 20-something years of coming down here and knowing Alvin and you, working a fire with you, and I can pick up the telephone call and ask a question. And this gets a lot of this stuff in that thing, where I can at least see what I'm supposed to be able to do and then find out how to do it. So I think it's really good.
Anything else? Anybody else? Questions, comments? I would say political statements.
How soon before we see this? How soon on this? That's been the key word for a long time.
How soon? How soon? Let me do that one. Here's where we are in the process is this company has their first drafts will have to be available to the steering committee to review by the 26th. I'm looking for 26th of January. We're going to try and give the steering committee a few weeks to go through it, make their notes, make their comments. Once that comes back, it'll go back to them, and that should be a relatively quick turnaround of adding the audio to it and having that final piece. We'll probably do another review with this, and I'm going to step out on a limb and pretty much say is you should have something out there. We're going to probably do some kind of a blast or press release or whatever with that is. We're going to probably have something in there middle of April, 1st of May at the latest to be able to do that. It's just a production part, and I will go ahead and tell you. The flip side of that is the fact of we would love to, and I'm going to say we, I'm going to step up and say we, I don't know if it's even on the schedule, to be able to present a Fire Chief 101 program or at least an overview of it at the beach, at the Chiefs Conference. So if we can do it at the Chiefs Conference and we can put a room out there and we can punch it out that way and really show the overall plan with that, I think it would be a really good thing. Again, the role of the Fire Academy is help develop the training part of it is. The role of the delivery of that and the other parts is up to the other associations. We're just one leg of this stool. And so as we go through that is the fact of you can beat Chief Ray up if you want to, you can beat me up if you want to, but at the same time is this collectively we're going to move forward with this. There is information in here that's going to make folks uncomfortable, but it's what the law is. There's going to be information in here that's best practices because it's based on the feedback that we had gotten from our stakeholders at those meetings as well as through our steering committee. And if you don't know who that steering committee is, then we'll stand them up because there's somebody near you similar in department size, makeup, whatever, that's part of this group as well. And so please contact any of us for feedback or whatever else for that. So,
in conjunction with that, the Fire Chief Handbook's been out for 3 years now, and there are still chiefs that don't even know it exists. Will Vinay from the Firefighter Association is working on an update right now. So if there's something in there that you don't see, something that you'd like to have added to it, get with Will or get with Joe and he'll get you in contact with Will, because that's the whole idea, is to increase that information, and as we find things that people find important that aren't included, then we can include that in that book. But just remember that the book was the beginning and this is the next step, and it all kind of intertwines together. So you know, it's like Rick said earlier, this is the beginning, it's never going to end, and as Will's found out 3 years later, he's doing an update on something that was the state of the art 3 years ago. So
and Will was so afraid that we're just going to does this match the book? Yes, it does match the book, but as the book changes, this will change because the overall plan would change, because we're trying to build this in a fashion where it doesn't go outdate every time somebody changes the book. So we're generalizing that as much as possible. Chief Abrams asked a question about testing. Testing. What's the testing part of this? Again, some of that's up to the steering committee as we move through. Again, as being somebody from the online world part of this, there are interactive quizzes and tests all the way through this. And trust me, you get hung up in some of these loops, and I swear I've answered that question right 5 times and it's still wrong. I don't know why, because that's my opinion. Well, guess what? You're wrong. There's going to be a participation part of it where, as you see, you're going to go through those 11 modules and some other stuff that's going to be within the interactive page. Again, this is an element within the page, no different than one module of a class that you're going to be for 2 days in that class. Each hour is one module of it. These are going to be the modules that's in there. We can add components in there. We may still do that as part of that. but at the end of it, your completion of this part of it will be a certificate that'll be emailed to you that you've completed this program, whatever we do with that. The next part of that's going to be those discussion components. So participation is going to be a component of there, but as we develop the certification part of it, there will be testing with that. So it's a two-edged sword with this. Personally, I think we need to focus on getting the information out there first, and then we'll worry about that credentialing part next. I don't think we need to jump so far ahead that we're worried about credentialing when we just said was we're more worried about the fact that we need to get the information out. And how do we get the information out is, don't scare people with you got to pass the test to get anything. Go do the thing. Go through and have fun with it and learn something, and then be able to contact your mentor that's in your area, or a general. We may even do a thing up for more information, email this address, and it goes out to an email blast through this network that's set up, and Alvin's email address may be one of those. Or it may be one of you that could be able to answer that question, or at least direct it that way. There's a lot of different pieces to go there, but we're a step at a time through this. The overall plan is pretty much in set as we're going through. Questions, comments, anything else? We got like 1 minute, 2 minutes.
Thank y'all for your participation. Like I said, and if you have any questions, remember Jonathan Ryan in the Low Country. We have Chief Kay in Greenville, Chief Blackwell in Spartanburg, myself in the PD. So if you have a question or something you'd like to add, feel free to contact any of us. You can always contact Joe or any of the fire chiefs or the Firefighters Association Executive Committee members, and they'll be glad to help you. Or you can always call Rick. Rick's the easiest person to get hold of. Call Rick.
And I'll give you Alvin's number. Also, if you want information on and again, we had this discussion with the regional on Friday. These are the new NFA classes, sort of a description of what they are. We got to put they're going to be available. The first two on the front side are going to be available very shortly. That's going to be taught through the South Carolina system through your regional coordination. So if you want to host one or whatever else, just get in touch with your regional coordinator, and we're going to try and get those things out there. We're also having a discussion. We're working with the NFA right now. Is the Fire Academy gets an NFA grant every year that we use for the leadership stuff or whatever. We want to use these programs as part of that. So there'll be free classes out there that'll be with that, but minimal charge for those, whatever. The back page of this are the two that's coming, and we should have those by the next 6 months. So after July 1st, they should be in place for that, getting the training part. So if you want one of these, I'll put them up here or put them back there or whatever. If you have any question or whatever, just get in touch with any of us. Thank y'all for your time. Thank you.